While I appreciate some of the programmatic things that you've described, I believe addiction, whether alcohol or drugs, is generally symptomatic of larger issues. So I believe that the programmatic aspects of this could be good options and resources for people experiencing these things. I think a lot of people that are here today, as well as myself, are really concerned with the needle exchange. So I want to make a statement that can be received in the form of a question and follow that up with a question. Have you guys considered the unintended consequences of the fill the dreams mentality? If you build it, they will come. That's, okay? I'm concerned about that. I think that's something that needs to be considered. We do have people that need resources. We do need to get people into treatment, but we can only treat so many people. And if we create an environment that's welcoming to outside, addicts and people coming here, at some point it's going to become overwhelming, and we're going to be worse off than we are today. Those are things that need to be considered. Secondly, needle exchange, and I guess I'm to the doctor here, needle exchange from a basis of healthcare, as I understand it, but I'm not a physician, could be supported by an elevation of bloodborne pathogens as a way to alleviate those things. However, that being said, from the Chelan and Douglas County Health District, we have not received any vital information that shows that we have any spikes in Hep C, HIV. So without any indication that we have an increasing problem in bloodborne pathogen, HIV, Hep C, among others, it can only serve as one thing, and that's to perpetuate illegal, illicit substance abuse.
Well, I'm happy. I can respond to the first half, if I remember correctly. If I can rewind in my brain enough. So I think that there is a pretty big misconception that doing a program like this is going to enable folks, that is going to bring more crime, and that's going to bring more negative impact to communities. What I can tell you is that there is an overwhelming amount of research and data and studies that show that, in fact, the opposite is true. There is studies that's
New York, Los Angeles, Seattle.
Keep speaking.
I appreciate the input. We want to go ahead and allow for our speakers to go ahead and provide their answers to the questions, please. Thank you.
And I would be happy to share those resources with you if that would put your mind at ease. I know that is also a worry that a lot of folks have around housing and low barrier housing, and that if you are offering resources to people, that more folks will come to try and cash grab those resources. I can tell you from a provider's perspective that certainly has not been the case with our housing clients. And I know that just based off of numbers that we have seen, not just from other areas of the country, but other areas of Washington, that these types of harm reduction programs do not do those things. So that is what I can say to that specifically. For the second part of your question, for the health part, I can certainly turn it over to Dr. Rickard.
Sure, just one quick add on to that. I think to summarize maybe some of the sentiment of the crowd, I'd love to see what information you have. I want to be well educated, well rounded, and if you have statistics to back that up. Unfortunately, statistics have a way of being manipulated. I said I'd like to see what information you have. I'd like to be well rounded on these issues, and unfortunately, I believe statistics sometimes have a way of being manipulated, and I think the sentiment of the crowd is seeing is believing. And no matter what the statistics say, we've all been to Portland, we've been to Seattle, we've seen these places that were mentioned that are run down with needles lying all over the streets that have these exchanges. If they work, why do you walk across the street? We see it in Douglas County. We have our solid waste director here that can tell you about our homeless camp cleanups, that we find massive amounts of needles, and we clean these places up and we go out there and we're performing that health service to get these off the street. But I think seeing is believing, and without a a set of overwhelming statistics to change what we can see with our own two eyes. It'd be really hard to believe anything different.
Well, we can provide you with the overwhelming amount of statistics. And we would also be happy to show you as our
and I want to
program,
see it because
our program continues. Yeah, I'll turn it over to Dr. Rickard.
As Dr. Rickard comes up here, I think the one additional comment I would put out there to your original question is that when you look at the map of SSP programs occurring in Washington State, we're actually one of the few counties in this region that are not operating an SSP program.
There's 9.
In this circled region.
In the region?
Not across the state, yeah. I was referencing this region. But I wouldn't disagree that there's probably 9 counties that aren't operating one. And so I would actually encourage us to look at the rural counties that are operating SSP programs and not necessarily look at the large cities. I think those counties have been able to operate an SSP program without seeing those kinds of increases. And from our conversations with Grant County Health District and Okanagan County, they would testify that is true. And so I would reference those areas first before we start referencing the large cities. I'm not advocating that we ever become Seattle. I'm not North Central Washington at heart, but my family, my roots is here and settled here. And so I would want to make sure that we're doing it in our rural way. And I would always advocate for rural, and I would look at other rural organizations that are operating these programs to get feedback on how they are doing.